Hello, we hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another Esports News episode. We hope you guys all enjoy this week's episode. It's going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So as always, we hope you guys all enjoy. My name is Jake. I am your host, and let's get into it. And first off, in big CSGO news out there, we had some drama finally, I guess you could say, partially answered this past weekend with the whole Doc instance. Now, for all of you guys who are newer viewers to the show, we've talked about Doc in the past on my main CSGO channel, but to give you guys a brief background of exactly who this guy is and how little we actually know about him, but some of it actually was proven this past weekend. Doc is actually formerly a 17-year-old FPL player. He was then kicked from FPL because he was not using his own microphone, and the whole story behind him is apparently he actually lives with his two parents, and they're very anti-gaming, and who actually would not let him use a microphone because he was being too loud while playing the game of CSGO. Now, allegedly, Faceit will re-invite him back as he actually moves out of his home. Allegedly, when he turns 18 sometime this month of September, he'll be moving out of that house and actually finally be able to play and even stream FPL games with a mic as well as a webcam. So it was actually this past weekend, Faceit reached out to Doc to try and further prove some of his backstory, because there's been so many questions about this guy in the past. Is what he's telling us the actual truth? We never really knew. And on top of that, to make things even more complicated, there were several clips out there, of course, coming out about him, which looked like he was cheating. Now, none of that's been proven, and for sure, maybe in the future we'll find out more about that, but he actually did head to a Faceit event. Faceit invited this guy. It was actually a sponsored event. They paid for him to go there to the Netherlands to actually prove in a LAN environment with a webcam as well as, most importantly, a headset, if he could actually play to the potential that he'd been playing online by himself, and he actually lived up to the hype. As of right now, we're going to wait to see the future of this guy, and actually when he does allegedly move out of his house, how good he actually is in FPL. They will re-invite him to the league once he moves out and is actually 18 years old. And his first match there is a 17-year-old. You can imagine traveling all the way to the Netherlands in this kind of pressure situation. I talked about this on my main channel as well. A 17-year-old kind of put into this kind of limelight, it has to be very nerve-wracking, but his very first match, hooked up in a LAN environment setting, he did drop a 30 bomb. So it was very cool to see. We're going to look forward to the future of this guy, but again, a very interesting backstory. Definitely one of the first times we've heard about this. A pro player, or I guess you could say a semi-pro player at this point in time, who never even used his own audio. He actually had a friend of his making the callouts for him in-game, and he's made it this far. It's a crazy story in itself. But also on top of that, of course, this past weekend, we had E-League Premier going on, a battle of 8 great teams, an amazing tournament as well, some great results. Although you could say the grand finals were a blowout, it was still a great event. And actually, in other news, before we get into that, it was actually Liquid facing a few feats this weekend, some emotional feats as well. First of all, it was actually Zeus, their coach, who could not even go to the event due to illness. And even more sad news out there, our prayers go out to Taco, who lost his father during the event. They actually went on to play later that day, so prayers go out to him. An amazing feat in himself to actually continue to play the game over such a rough weekend for him. On top of that, though, that same day that all happened, they actually went on to sweep Na'Vi in the semifinals, and it was a pretty amazing feat in itself. That definitely was considered, in my own opinion, an upset. Na'Vi's 3-game win streak, or 3 LAN win streak, actually broken by Team Liquid. Now, throughout group stages, though, we saw a lot of surprises as well. Actually, in Group A, all three of our American teams were in Group A, so a pretty easy run for Astralis. It was actually Cloud9 and MIBR going out early. Not too big of a surprise there, but obviously a pretty easier group, if you could say, all 3 American teams in Group A for Astralis and Liquid to go through, and it was actually Na'Vi and Mouse Sports going through in Group B. And definitely some upsets over here, as Fnatic did actually take down FaZe Clan in a best of 3. They 2-0 sweep them, and it was very surprising as well, because it's kind of the first official LAN event back, you could say, for Olaf Meister in that FaZe Clan roster, and you definitely expected a bit more out of them. Who knows what the issues are over there? Probably not a huge issue as well. There's definitely still top 8 of the teams in the world right now in CSGO, and alongside that, it was actually Fnatic getting upset very shortly afterwards. After they upset FaZe Clan, they were then beat by Mouse Sports in a best of 3. So it was actually Na'Vi and Mouse Sports going through in Group B. It was actually Astralis taking down, unfortunately enough, Mouse Sports in a not too close of a series in the semifinals, and Liquid taking down Na'Vi. Both of those best of 3s were actually sweeps, and unfortunately enough for Liquid, they had to face probably the best team, by far and away the best team in CSGO right now, looking so consistent, and that's an Astralis roster that's going to look very dangerous heading into our major time in just over a month, guys. So Astralis takes your E-League Premier title 2018, and I cannot wait to see what these guys do in the future. But still, with some close competition, we have some great teams out there, but for North American teams, it seems like Liquid is our only hope right now. And also in Dota 2 news out there, we continue to have Valve. I even touched on this last week. Valve is just, they're really playing with our heads at this point. You guys can see the long update. You can zoom in all you want. You can scroll down. No, after the long list of things, there's still no Immortal Treasure 3. But I guarantee you guys, with the TI-18 coming up less than 2 weeks away, or just about 2 weeks away, it is almost guaranteed it has to be this week. They want that last surge, which is going to last a little bit, probably a week-long surge once Immortal Treasure 3 is actually released, of that prize pool as it continues to rise, and hopefully this week is the week. But again, I think we've just been baited over the past week and a half or so. This week is probably going to be the week. And speaking of the last week of events as well, our last tournament before TI-18 actually was this past weekend. That was Dota Summit 9, and it was Evil Geniuses taking those grand finals and looking pretty dominant throughout the entire series, going 7-3 throughout group play. Their only losses to actually Let's Do This. Let's Do This is the only team at Dota Summit 9 who is actually not going to be at the TI-18. So 5 of the 6 teams there will actually compete in 2 weeks time at TI-18. So it was really cool to see where we're at so far in the standings in terms of all these teams. But by far and away, it was Fnatic and EG looking really dominant throughout the entire event. Ironically enough, it was actually Fnatic 2-0 sweeping EG throughout group play, and then EG back in the finals after Fnatic worked their way back all the way through the losers bracket. It was actually EG 3-0 sweeping Fnatic in those finals, but still great competition. It was also kind of sad to see Peter, Dagger, and crew. If you guys did see Optic Gaming, of course, the last chance qualifier for TI-18, I cannot wait to see them actually play. They unfortunately lost to EG as well, and that's his alma mater over there, which I'm sure there's a bit of a rivalry going on, but still a great tournament to watch, and I cannot wait for TI-18 in 2 weeks time to actually see who is going to be the most dominant. And in big Fortnite news, last week we had a big announcement which actually was met with a lot of controversy out there. I'm really interested to see how Epic brings back this, and that will be the guided missile. Now, I'm sure you guys are well aware of the history of the guided missile not lasting too long in its first initiation because it was just so overpowered in every sense of the matter. Apparently, they will be bringing it back in our next patch, and that's going to be patch 5.2, so expect that sometime very soon. The only real reductions right now, of course, are going to be in damage, and alongside that, a reduction in the ammo capacity of the weapon. I am very curious to see if this is going to be a big enough nerf to actually tame this weapon down, and it's going to be cool to see, though. At least one benefit of this is the clips we're going to be able to see with the guided missile are probably going to be insane. And also in big news, the Skirmish series does continue, guys. Week 3 was this week, and it was the first week we have not seen any bit of controversy, or at least that I'm aware of so far. Of course, it was actually week 1 we had the lag of the event. The event was just poorly put on, and unfortunately Epic actually recognized that. It ended shortly after on Friday, after just 4 or 5 actually series or games. On top of that, though, week 2, of course, we had I Drop Bodies. He came back apparently allegedly playing mouse and keyboard on console. That was a big uproar from the community, although it was, hopefully we've been moving past that. Apparently he actually can stream games, so we're going to see if he actually continues to stream in the future when he's invited back or actually makes it back to some future Skirmish series. But on top of that, week 3 though was a duo event, and it was an amazing event to watch. It was so great to see so far. It was actually a duos event and a race to 13 points. A victory royale gave you 4 points, and alongside that, if you and your teammate combined for 5 or more kills, it was an additional 2 points. So no matter what, if you got both of those, a victory royale as well as 5+ kills, they were calling it a victory royale flush. No matter what, you had to get at least 2 of those and play another game. So it was actually a 5-game series though, and then for very crazy news, on Friday it went to the last game, game number 5. It was actually NRG Zate alongside SKT Saf, who stole it away in the same game from Hesse and Bizzle. It was actually Hesse and Bizzle who actually made it past that 13-point marker during that game, but they eventually died in the game, and those points do not go to your total until the game ends. And it was actually later that game Zate and Saf who won the game with a victory royale flush. Those 6 points brought them past Hesse and Bizzle's final score. So Friday ending in absolute uproar. It was an amazing event to watch, and Saturday of course could not really compete with that, but still Atlantis members, both Magin and also Mitro, taking the final victory royale. They actually won it with a 4-point victory royale, and they took your #1 place for Saturday. But again, Friday's event was just so hard to compete with, and the event so far for week 3 of Skirmish series was really fun to watch. I cannot wait for Skirmish series week 4 this week, and it's gonna be cool to see who actually is invited and who is actually not. And again, a reminder as well, this week, week 3, was professional streamers as well as professional players, so very competitive. It was not against randoms out there, so you can imagine getting 5+ kills and getting the victory was all the more hard. So it was really cool to watch, and that was actually in Fortnite news. And also in huge news out there in League of Legends news, guys, as you know, Monday's episodes are dedicated to actually matches. That's going to be league play for LCS as well as LCK matches, and a ton happening right now in League of Legends. It was crazy to see this weekend the flip-flops of North American teams. So first off, we're going to cover North American LCS. The standings on screen for all of you guys. It's been amazing to see so far. Probably the closest playoff race we will ever see in North American LCS. Pretty much all of the teams right now, I guess you could say debatable with 2 weeks left, that our last 2 teams actually have a chance right now, but Cloud9 has actually bounced themselves back back into playoff contention after a 2-0 week here. They beat their former teammate, that is actually Smoothie, who moved to Echo Fox. Echo Fox still looking really good and actually has playoff contention as well, and likely will make it, but they beat Echo Fox, and alongside that, a huge win over TSM. And I say huge win over TSM because this is actually a huge flip-flop. As of last week, it was TSM with the more potential to actually make playoffs, and as of this week, Cloud9 goes 2-0, TSM goes 0-2, and their playoff likelihood is pretty much dropped off the entire map. Now, TSM looking to have some internal breakdowns over there. I think there was a lot of posts out there right now about the current communication of TSM's. What's being talked about is their loss to FlyQuest. It was actually, I guess you could say, somewhat of a base race, more so one-sided on FlyQuest's side, and it was actually, you guys can probably tell by the replay if you've watched it back and back, it seemed to be Grig alongside Sven who are going to be actually backing to base, and that was maybe called off or interrupted as well, but really kind of a miscommunication there from TSM's side, and what seems to be a team that is breaking down communication-wise. Everyone, I think, is very interested now. Will they actually change their roster? Will they change out? I doubt it's going to happen, but maybe sit a person like Bjerg on the bench and actually bring in some new players for the last 2 weeks. We've seen many North American teams so far throughout the split actually do this, and so far it's been working for teams like Cloud9. Echo Fox, debatable. We'll see if it works for them in the closing 2 weeks, but will TSM actually change their rosters and take a risk because they have to win out? There is no guarantee for playoffs at all right now, but they at least have to win out to have a chance at that playoff race. So a huge week for NALCS, huge changes coming, and I cannot wait to see what the future actually holds these next 2 weeks for North America. And it also was Team Liquid and 100 Thieves in North American LCS going 2-0 this past week, and it pretty much solidifies them as for their playoff spot. Also, of course, no guarantee, but going forward, we already knew that Liquid was probably going to be our best North American team, and both Liquid and 100 Thieves going 2-0 this past weekend pretty much guarantees their playoff spots, which is definitely well deserved throughout that close race so far. So pretty much 2 spots left. Who's going to actually join those spots? It's all up in the air right now. But also in European LCS, it's Fnatic continuing to dominate. Another 2-0 weekend here without Reckless in their lineup. Of course, that's going to be Whippo so far in that bot lane, and probably continuing to be throughout the entire split. It seems Reckless has no intention to come back, and Fnatic definitely not in need of him right now, which is definitely an interesting story we'll probably talk about in the future. On top of that, though, we have H2K still the only winless team in League of Legends right now. Unfortunately enough, they seem to be going 0-12 after this week. Who knows if they're going to lose all 16 matches? We hope not, but at the same time, do we really hope not? It'd be interesting to see a team actually go winless throughout the entire split. Also on top of that, though, we have G2 and Misfits continue to split weekends, both another 1-1 weekend. Misfits really not too worried about losses right now. They seem to be a team who's pretty much going to solidify their playoff spots as well. And very lastly, it will be Vitality with wins over both Roccat as well as Giants, solidifying a 2-0 weekend to keep them in that top 4 spot in playoff contention, and that was some pretty big news for the team over there. Now also in LCK matches, though, we have some big announcements of potentially coming from SKT. It was actually last week on their Facebook page. They posted something that was apparently coming July 30th. I hope it wasn't a stream announcement for Faker, because that'd be really anticlimactic. But also at this point in time, do they really need changes? I'm not really sure if it's going to be a change for the jungle or top lane right now, because they've actually won 6 of their last 7 LCK matches in surprising fashion. So we're going to see they've actually climbed their way back up into certified playoff contention, and I don't think they need changes. Will they make changes now? It'd be a bit of a surprise if they actually went through with it, because this is an LCK split so far. It continues to confuse me. I love looking over the 3 splits so far. North America having all their teams so close. I guess you could argue now that it's pretty much down to the top 8 teams over in North America. Then you go to EU, it's definitely your top 4 teams who have pretty much almost solidified their spots. Of course, that 3rd and 4th spot can always go away, but then you go to LCK, and it seems to be a good solid 5 to 7 teams who actually have contention. Of course, those bottom 3 teams, MVP, Jin Air, and BBQ, have no chance at all to make it, but again, you can actually see any of these 7 teams, more likely so 5 or 6 of them, have a chance to actually go through. And again, we also at SKT, with that 3-0 weekend, really change things up and bring themselves back up into contention. It's just really cool to see the differences between NA, EU, as well as LCK, and it's going to be cool to see these next 2 weeks. They definitely will be a nail biter for all teams involved as we try and actually nail it down to the top 4 teams for every region. I've always wondered about esports events and the music they choose, the venues they choose, and the performances they also go ahead and go with. If you guys were, of course, aware of the Overwatch League finals this past weekend, we had the London Spitfire against the Philadelphia Fusion, but it was a great series, although not too close. London Spitfire taking your title, so congrats to them. And of course, Cloud9 owner Jack, another title in his hands. It was really cool to see, but also some questions about this, the performance by DJ Khaled. I might be alone in this, so feel free to leave your feedback down below in the comment section, guys, but there were so many clips out there And I think we've questioned this a lot in the past about the esports crowd. I think we're definitely, I guess you could say, more of an awkward crowd to try and attune to, and it definitely, we've seen over the past, I know for CSGO events at least, we had ESL Cologne, they had an instrumental orchestra come in. It was also met with kind of weird reviews because you never really know how to appease to such a wide variety of a crowd. But DJ Khaled, I think he did his best.
I'm the one, yeah. Shout out DJ Envy in the building. Let's go, New York. Sing it. Another one. When I say DJ, you say Khaled. DJ. Now put your hands up like this. What's my favorite word? Another one. Another one. Another one.
Yeah.
Another one. Another one.
But at least there was one guy into it. You definitely see in the replay every time the one guy who was obviously meant to be there. If we had filled the Barclays Center with people like that, this would have been an amazing show. So leave a comment down below. What do you guys think about it? I think it was awkward to watch. I think if I was there, though, it might have been maybe a bit better because I paid to be there, and so I have to feel like it was better. But either way, guys, big questions coming for Overwatch League. Of course, this being the first Overwatch League season 2 starting, I guess you could say somewhat soon. It's going to be cool to see, though, what changes come before then, because it's been a 6-month process of testing what Overwatch can do as a league. And of course, with every individual stage, each of the 4 stages pretty much having their own meta, this last one being a heavy DPS kind of meta, it was very cool to see which teams could actually adapt and which process is going to work for the future. And also a big question as well, did teams going to the semifinals have a disadvantage or an advantage? Because we had both the Boston Uprising as well as the New York Excelsior lose those matches, even though they were given the automatic advance to the semifinals. Is it bad that those teams don't get a warm-up match in the quarterfinals? But also you have to have the opposite side of the coin. They actually, if they did play the quarterfinal matchups, they obviously could have lost. So I don't know what you guys think about that. We've had, of course, the history of esports. I don't think there's any sort of trend if you go to automatically to semifinals if you're bound to lose or win. I don't think there's any trend in any which way about that, but in this case it definitely does not look good for the future of Overwatch to have maybe an automatic semifinal qualifier. I know I myself would prefer to actually play out the entire playoff matchups, and no matter what that means to be. If we need to actually bring up 8 teams to playoffs and have actual quarterfinal matchups throughout those 4 matchups, it'd be really cool to see more teams in playoffs and actually play it out throughout a longer process. What do you guys think, though? It was still a great final. The teams were the best performance on the stage. I'll just say that.
It's already #1 on iTunes.
And also, very lastly, for today's episode of Esports News, we do have Rocket League updates there. The only roster change we've seen so far in the past month, that is actually Mouse Sports guys announcing their brand new roster, which will be Alex, Skyline, and Tigray. These guys have actually played together in the past. They placed second at the Rival Series as well earlier this year, so it's going to be cool to see how they do in the future, and they will be their first matches tonight in the Gfinity Series as a team under Mouse Sports. So I cannot wait to see how they do, and they also will compete in Rocket League Season 6. If you guys missed last episode, Rocket League Season 6, Season 5 was actually $250K prize pool, and this year, out of nowhere, Season 6 will actually be a $1 million prize pool. I cannot wait to see who can actually compete, though, with D0cC's and NRG. As always, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Esports News. If you guys did, leave a comment down below. What did we miss? What can we do better in the future? We hope you guys all enjoy. I will see you right back here Wednesday. I'll see you then. Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That is how I know you. Go on. What's up? My coworkers just saw that. Great.